Hi everyone, Denise Pimentel here, back again with Unshaken Voices, episode 3. If you've been with me since the first 2 episodes, I just wanted to say thank you for staying with me. And if you're new here, I wanted to say this clearly from the start. This podcast is not about dramatizing mental illness. It's about telling the truth with extreme care. Today's episode is a little bit heavier in topic than the others, and one that I wasn't sure exactly I should dive into, but I decided to go forward with it. Today I'm going to be talking about mania. This is the part of bipolar disorder that scares me the most. Not because it makes me feel weak, but because it can make you feel certain and strong and right when you're not well. Everything that I'm sharing comes from all lived experiences that I have gone through, and you can find some of them in my memoir, Unshaken. And some of you may have already read it, so you're a little bit familiar with the things that I've gone through and experienced. And if you're not, I'm just going to talk a little bit about them today. So why do I think this topic is important? Number one, because staying silent about it can be dangerous, because people need to know what's going on inside your head. And staying silent about it isn't the right choice. And speaking about it saves lives. And people are more aware as to what they're going through. And people who are loved ones of those going through it are better able to see the signs and help in whatever way that they can. So a little bit of some quick context for those of you who don't know me, haven't heard of me, never saw anything about me. I live with bipolar disorder, and what I'm sharing today is not theory, it's experience, and I'm not giving medical advice. I'm only offering the truth of what I have experienced. And if at any point, obviously, that you think this is just too much to hear about, that's totally up to you. Check out of the conversation. That's totally fine. So what exactly is mania? Obviously, we've heard of the word, right? So in the context of bipolar disorder, mania tends to be one of the most misunderstood parts of the illness. A lot of people think it's only extreme happiness, lots of energy, you're very productive, you're very creative, and I can attest to the fact that yes, you very energetic, very productive. I started a writing business when I was manic. And creative, I'd say writing, I do write a lot and really well when I am manic. But again, you're put into a different realm. I don't really know the best way to explain it. But what mania isn't, it is not joy. It's like when you push the gas pedal in the car and you go. There's no hesitation. It's like your thoughts are racing so fast, too fast, that you can't even question them. You just go, and it's like sleep becomes optional. Oh, if I can get an hour here, there. When I was manic, I went multiple days without sleep. And it's when you're at those multiple days that you end up tapping into when you start seeing things, you start having hallucinations. You have to sleep. And you have so much energy that you can't. And your ideas feel crazy urgent. Like, I have an idea. I have to go do it. It has to happen right now. I need to do it, blah, blah, blah. It's like there's no waiting. Everything feels extremely important in the moment. And one of the most dangerous things about mania is that it rarely will announce itself to you, the person with it, as a problem. Because you're just spiraling and you don't see it as a problem. But loved ones around you may catch it a lot more quickly than you can. In my most recent one, because I guess, what was this? This was my 4th time being manic. I knew something wasn't right. And I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I think every other time I've felt that, except the first time, because I had no idea what was going on. I knew something wasn't right and I needed to go. The problem is, it's a little too late. The earlier on that you catch it, the more aware you get, the more breakdowns you have, the easier it gets to kind of figuring out something's not right. So the last time I didn't even have to go into the regular psychiatric facility. I just had to go into the empath unit, which is something new that they have at Overlook Hospital, because I wasn't so far gone. And that's an awesome option, new option that they have, where you're kind of in between. They're figuring out, okay, after a certain amount of days, I guess it's like 3 or 4 days, if you seem better and things seem okay, you can come out. If they're like, oh, they're not ready, then you'll be put into the psychiatric unit. I have been there, I guess it was 11 days the first time, 9 days the second time, maybe 6 days the third time, and then this time I was only there for 3 days. So less and less and less. Let's hope that we stay that way. Well, actually, let's hope I never go back, but there's no guarantee. So like I said, one of the biggest issues with mania is losing grip or losing touch with reality. So what does that look like? So one of the clearest examples of this in my life, there were multiple times, but the first one I wanted to talk about was in my first manic episode. I was married to my ex-husband. I was in the emergency room, pacing, frantic, looking for a pen and paper because I had to do math. I had to figure something out. So, and I had to do it right then and there. And I'm like looking in the drawers in the emergency room. I guess this was years and years ago. I guess the drawers weren't locked at that point in time. And I was going through the drawers. And I got the paper. So why? Well, my mind, for some reason, was telling me suddenly that my little brother, who's about 13 years younger than me, was actually my son. Now, I had no memory of being pregnant with him, no memory of giving birth to him. Even at this time, I felt like it was like I was brainwashed. Like they took those memories out of my mind, but it actually happened. And so where did it stem from? When you're manic, your thoughts take over. And my mom, a couple days prior to this, had said something along the lines of, you were like a mother to your brother. Because I really was. Like, I was going to school for teaching, and he was in maybe pre-K, kindergarten, and I was doing lesson plans with him. And, I always treated him like a son because of the age difference. So my mother saying that kind of rewrote the reality of things completely in my brain, because I was already disassociated with reality. So I started calculating ages, convinced that the math was going to work out and that my delusion was actually true. So this is what mania does. Your ears hear one thing, your brain then distorts the whole thing that you heard or some of it, but then your heart believes what your brain distorted because it trusts the mind that you've lived with your whole life. And so when the insight is actually gone, reality actually becomes kind of negotiable. So mania doesn't just change your mood, it removes the insight that you have lived with your whole life. And once it fully takes hold, there's really no way to reason your way back to reality. So in my case, there were times when I wasn't hospitalized yet that psychiatrists were just trying to put, give me this med, give me that med, to try to bring me back. And I was like too far gone that I needed severe treatment. I needed to go in, get myself out of a setting and into a hospital setting to really, the way they explained it is to learn to care for yourself again. Because sometimes you're so far gone, the simple tasks need to be reintroduced. I remember we used to have to do our laundry, make your bed, make sure you show up for meals on time, go to classes. It almost feels like you're living in a college dorm again. But that's really what you need. Intervention becomes very necessary. So, and the hard truth is that at that time, I didn't feel broken. I felt convinced. I felt there was nothing wrong with me. In the first manic episode, because I was not familiar with this. I didn't understand what was happening. It was the most confusing time I have ever experienced. And that's why mania can do so much harm, not only to yourself, but to other people that you love. It's not that you don't care as a person about who you hurt along the way. It's that you don't even realize, because your brain is moving so fast and decisions are being made, and your judgment is impaired, and you don't have time to even think about the destruction that you're leaving behind as you keep going forward in your manic episode. So in Unshaken, I describe mania as a drug because that's really what it feels like. It's euphoric, you feel invincible, above any consequences, and in that state, you truly believe that nothing bad can happen to you. Looking back, I can see how close I became to becoming another statistic. Not because I wanted to die or anything like that, but because mania convinces you that you are immune to danger. And that's why so many people resist treatment, because they don't want to tame the lion, or they don't want to lose their creative talent, or they don't want to be lacking in their career, because a lot of times, think about it, if you're not sleeping and if you're staying up for days and days focusing on a project or something like that, you can complete things that are important. You can. I mean, famous people like Van Gogh had bipolar disorder, and he would work on pieces for days and not sleep. The fumes of the things, of some of the paints he was probably using, didn't help either. But you do have this huge sense of just euphoria. And for me, I was another one of these people who did not want to give up my creative ability. I truly believed that taking medication was going to ruin my ability to paint, to write, which is wrong. I was completely wrong, because I have painted beautiful pictures on medication after that. I wrote my book on medication. I started it in a state of mania, and that's where the concept came out of for the memoir. But everything was finalized while on medication. So the thing is, it just takes a lot longer, because it does take away a little bit of your ability to stay focused for long periods of time, because when you're manic, you forget to take care of the things that need to be done, like if you have to do laundry, if you have to go food shopping or rake the leaves, whatever it is. You're just so focused on getting whatever you think is the most important thing done that you completely just put everything else aside. So what scares me the most about mania? Well, probably the biggest thing is not knowing when it's gonna just show up, because you wake up and you go through your day, and for me, I do think about it. I'm on medication and I'm stable, but who's to say that someday my medication is just gonna stop working? I take lithium, and what if the lithium just stops working? I don't want to hurt the family and loved ones that I have. I'm not talking about physically, emotionally. I love and care for all of my friends and family, and when you're manic, you become very self-driven. all you really care about is getting what you want to get done. You have this goal and you want to do whatever it takes, like I said, to get it done as quickly as possible. Intensity in the moment actually becomes like clarity to you, and that's not anywhere near what clarity should be. And your confidence is your truth. Although, other people might be trying to say, hey, something's not right here. And you're like, it is right. Everything's right. Everything's perfect. Everything's going how I want it to be. And it becomes a struggle for other people to get you to see something's not right. One of my other biggest fears is not seeing it coming on soon enough. Because like I said, this last time that it happened, which was last August, it came on very quickly. Well, actually, I don't know. My husband would have a better idea, but I was able to catch it more quickly than the other times, but still not fully. It was still too late that I had to be hospitalized. But again, not like inpatient. It was in this empath unit, which is like a temporary thing. So I'm very, very vigilant. I'm really trying to keep an eye on what's going on with everything. So, like I talked about before, mania leads to psychosis and paranoia and hallucinations and delusions. And sometimes it takes over. And there were periods when I truly believed, 100% believed, that I was seeing homeless people in my living room. And sorry, it just creeps me out to go back and remember these things. So it had to be in the middle of the night, maybe midnight or so. I was in that span of time that I could not sleep. So I was alone. My husband was sleeping, the kids were sleeping, and I saw, maybe 3 homeless people in my living room, and don't ask me why, but they were playing instruments. Kind of like when people try to raise money when they're homeless, they'll do a little, song for you or whatever. And I ended up going into my son's room. Maybe he was around 12 at that time, and waking him up and saying, "Oh, there's homeless people in the living room. Do you hear them playing music?" And of course, he was mid-dream or sleep, and he was like, yeah, I hear them. And the next day, like, I think even still till today, he thinks he heard them, but he was just mid-dream, and that's why he thought that was what he was hearing. And then there was another time during, this was in my first marriage, where, again, going through those phases where I just can't sleep. I got up, I took a shower, I took the baby monitor with me so I could hear in case he woke up, and I could hear voices calling me through the intercom. Very creepy. I can't watch horror movies till today because of the experiences I had through mania and psychosis. Because when I watch horror shows, a lot of that reminds me of what I experienced. And it's very unnerving, I should say. But anyway, so it just, hearing those voices through the monitor, it felt so real, felt so threatening. I was so convinced that something was wrong that I ended up calling the police and telling them, is it too late for me to report domestic violence because of some issues that had happened in the past? And, they ended up coming, and it's just, it's so scary and real. And the weirdest thing is that, when you're in the moment, things are so warped and so out of whack in your brain, but when you're back in your right mind, you can tap right into that moment but see it with a healthy, not ill mind. And sometimes it's really sad, because you think of some of the things you may have said or did, and it just, it scares you, because you don't want to put anyone through that again. So you do what you're supposed to do. You see your psychiatrist, you see your therapist, you take your medicine, you make sure you get your sleep, because, throwing your sleep habits out of loop can start a problem. So I always have to be careful, especially in the summer when the kids are out of school and you don't have to get up. I try not to, change too much of my sleep patterns, because I get nervous. So some things that are definitely in need of being said, that of course can be difficult but very important, is that mania doesn't just live inside one person. It lives in your marriage, or in your family, or in the people trying to desperately love someone they no longer recognize. There came a point where even my husband Ryan, my best friend, biggest supporter, he almost walked away. And that wasn't because he didn't love me. It wasn't because he was weak. It was because mania had pushed our marriage to the edge. And when, like I said, when your insight is gone, it can feel like an attack. And it did feel like I was attacking him. And the problem is he no longer could find me. I was unrecognizable. I wasn't the person that he fell in love with, and he didn't know if I was ever coming back. But thankfully we have treatment and hospitals and medicine and doctors. And also his sister, who is a nurse, she was helping him through this, because she was familiar with treatment and, really trying to make him realize that she just needs to get help and she'll be back to who she was. But it's scary because he was literally walking away. And between the help of his sister, but mostly my dad showed up to talk to him, and whatever he said, Ryan says he felt like God backed my dad 100% with whatever he said, because Ryan came back and fought hard to get me back to where I was, and I am so thankful for that. So, like I was saying, God used my father to bring Ryan back. And I was at the height of my illness. My dad stepped in. He wasn't taking sides. He wasn't assigning any blame, but he was only trying to bring clarity to the situation. He helped Ryan to see what was actually going on, that I wasn't really trying to attack him. I wasn't trying to manipulate him or starting some kind of rebellion. I was only having a mental break from reality. And that distinction helped to change everything. Because when you believe that someone is choosing to hurt you on purpose, obviously you're going to start protecting yourself. You're going to pull away from that situation. But when you understand someone's temporarily lost their grip on not only reality, but themselves, a sense of compassion starts to return. So there's another part of mania that people rarely understand, and I want to name it carefully. During one of my manic episodes, I experienced suicidal thoughts, and that is the immediate trigger for hospitalization. You think anything about harming yourself or harming someone else, you go straight to the ER, they take you in, they try to fix what's going on in your brain. No ands, ifs, or buts. Now, it wasn't really out of sadness or hopelessness or anything like that, but it was more out of distortion. So I wasn't trying necessarily to die. I was more like trying to be seen. It was like attention. Let me get attention from the ones I love who don't believe the thoughts that I'm feeling, like the legitimacy of what I was believing. So mania was convincing me that no one understood the truth to what I was believing about myself. And those thoughts were not a desire necessarily to end my life, but they were this sign that my mind was no longer interpreting reality correctly, because I was like, I remember I said, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to go run in front of a car, because I needed people to believe me that I was still serious in what I was feeling and saying. So it wasn't like I wanted to die. It was like I wanted people to take me more seriously. But I did say that's what I was going to do. And I, at one point, was walking out the door to the street. So, pretty scary. But I am safe now. I am helped. And that moment became a clear indicator that intervention was necessary. And sometimes it gets to that point. unfortunately. So what are some things that I have learned that I'll never forget through my manic episodes and everything that I went through? One, love needs understanding to survive mania. Because if you can't zone in as a caretaker and try to see things a different way, it'll never make it. Love alone can't carry this illness. You can love whomever it is that is suffering from a mental illness a billion times huge, but that is not going to fix the person. Hugs and kisses and flowers and chocolates, no. You need medication, you need treatment, you need family support, faith, whatever is important to you. But love alone cannot carry you through an illness. And faith alone cannot carry you through an illness. I know along the way there were, many religious people who believed, if you love God and you pray and, you put all of your heart in God and your faith, you can get through anything. Well, that's part of it. But one thing I've learned is that it's only a part of it. God gave us medicine. God gave us doctors. God gave us family. All of these things to join together with your faith, if you have a faith, to get through things like mental illness, traumas, divorce, whatever it is. You can't just rely solely on love, on faith, on whatever it is. It's a combination. It's a combination that you need to keep permanently. There also needs to be guardrails against things that need to be set up. Accountability. Holding someone accountable is not punishing them. It's protecting them. Making sure they're taking their medication is holding them accountable. And in the past, I used to need that. Because I didn't believe that I needed to be on medication. It took time to believe that. And taking your medication is extremely important. It's not giving up. Medication is helping you to stay present. Stability is obedience. It's saying, I am going to do everything that I need to do in order to stay stable for my family and for me. Because who wants to go through that again? I definitely don't. And God, for me, God is huge. He meets me in the stillness. He meets me in the fire when things are going crazy. Thank God, because I could be seeing other things when I'm going cuckoo, but I'm seeing God and good things. And I'm thankful for people who are willing to speak the truth with love. Sometimes it's harder to hear when you're in the state of mania, but you can't be afraid. As someone who loves another with a mental illness, you can't be afraid to say what you feel if you think something isn't right. So I want to end this episode with hope. Mania doesn't define who we are. And stability doesn't make you lose your identity. Awareness will help save lives, and early insight to what's going on 100% matters. Your support systems matter hugely. If you recognized yourself in this episode, you're obviously not alone. Here I am. If you love someone with bipolar disorder, your concern for them matters more than you think. Because without our support systems, we probably wouldn't be standing here today or sitting here. So you are extremely important, and we know the burden you carry staying here and loving us. Before I close, I wanted to add this. If you or someone you love is struggling with suicidal thoughts, help is available. In the United States, you can call, you can text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you don't want to call, you can just send a text. That's a little easier than calling sometimes. You deserve support. Thank you for staying with me through a hard but tough conversation. This is Unshaken Voices, and we're going to keep telling the truth carefully, courageously, and with hope. See you next time.